everybody. Thank you for joining us for the State of Collaboration Industry Lunch and Learn. I'm Mike Brandifino, the chairman of the IMCCA. And before I introduce Ann, who's going to moderate this, and the distinguished panel, we're going to give out some awards. We have an inaugural awards starting this year, collaboration between the IMCCA and InFocus, for industry experts that took their time to present on that Tuesday's event that had over 300 people attending. I think 600 people attended. It was very well attended. We actually had to get extra chairs, so it was very successful. So without ado, I'm going to hand out these beautiful awards. And our first award winner is Mike Sinclair, Vice President and owner of Audio Incorporated.
Smile for a picture for the guy.
Our next award winner is Joel Silver, President of Imagining Science Foundation, Inc. The next award is for Manolo Almagaro, Managing Director, Innovations. Next is Hope Roth, CTS Programming Specialist, Reardon Brothers. Next award is to our board member and friend, David Danto. Next award is to Erwin Lazar from the Metro. The next award is to Tim Banting, Global Data. The last award is to Brent Kelly. Okay, again, thank you everybody for coming to the event. Thank you award winners, and hopefully we'll continue to do this year after year. This becomes an industry standard. I'd like to now introduce Dr. Ann Earon, one of the founding chairpersons of the IMCCA, to go forward and moderate this session.
I'll start up here and then I'm going down below. So let me start by what is the IMCCA. Those of you who are not aware of us, we're the Nonprofit Industry Association for Conferencing, Collaboration, and Unified Communications. We have a booth on the show floor, number 2969. If you are an end user, please come and join and become a member of IMCCA for free, no cost to join. If you're a vendor member, please come and join us if you are not already. There's a nominal cost associated with it. We started in 1998. We are now a partner and have been for many years of InFocus. We form industry alliances, provide you with networking opportunities, speaking opportunities. We offer a monthly newsletter, and we have special interest groups. So go down to the show floor and learn more. Briefly who I am, I'm the founding chairperson of IMCCA and now the program chairperson. However, I have to thank David Danto this year for taking the yeoman's job of doing the program as I was running around the world with my daughter. I am also president of a 35-year-old management consulting firm in this space, and we do everything that doesn't require a screwdriver. We don't sell any technology, nor do we integrate it. And you are allowed to call me the industry godmother. You are not allowed to call me the industry grandmother. So before I introduce my panel, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover. What's going on in the environment now? Everybody has an interactive whiteboard solution. Everybody has a huddle room solution. Everybody has a team chat solution. Everybody has a mic array solution, and lawyers. If you don't know what that means, come and see me later. Everybody has a cloud solution. We have mechanical PTZ cameras, which are beginning to fade away. Mitel didn't buy Polycom after all, and Avaya declared bankruptcy, and there's lots more going on from year to year. To help us sort all of this out, our panelists are up here, and I'm going to come down there so I can see them all, since I can't see all of them from here. So, we're going to go across from here to there. I'll introduce who they are, and then when I'm done, I'm going to ask Danny to start at the other end and talk to us about what you think is the hot topic right now in this industry, because this is state of the industry. Take about 1 minute to do so. Those of you who know me know I will stop you. We want to make sure everybody has plenty of time to speak. Once I've gone through a series of questions with the panelists, I will then open it up to the audience to ask questions. If you run out of questions, don't worry. David and I have plenty to ask. So, starting at this end, we have Simon Dudley, Director of Product Strategy, Video Collaboration at Logitech. Next to him, we have Brady Bruce, who's the Chief Marketing Officer for InFocus. Then we have David Berman, who's the President of Zoom. Next to him, we have Greg Pelton, who's the CTO and VP of Infrastructure Engineering at Polycom. Then we have Tom Ericlia, who's the CEO and co-founder of Videxio. Mark Strassman, Chief Product Officer at BlueJeans. Then we have Mike Fitch. No, you're not there. Who have I got there? Crestron, Dan Jackson. Dan is the Director of Enterprise Technologies for Crestron. Then I have Mike Fitch, who is with Revo Labs, VP of Sales. Then I have Chad Constant, who's the General Manager for Intel Business Client Platforms. Then I have Jed Williams, who's the Managing Director of Worldwide Collaboration Sales for Cisco. And last on the end, who's going to start us off, is Danny Rogers, who's the VP of Global Channels and UC Vendor Alliances with AVI-SPL. Why did I pick on Danny? He's also an IMCCA board member.
Thank you very much for the introduction there. Good afternoon, firstly, to everybody here. I hope you're enjoying your lunch. I think to encompass in 60 seconds where we're seeing the industry is a tall challenge, but I think you may see some commonality in some of the answers. For myself, in terms of what I'm seeing as a global organisation, in terms of the way that we operate in 101 countries, we're seeing, I think, the biggest demand ever and requirement from end users to actually look at and consider really now true return on investment. There are companies that are deploying and investing tens of millions of thousands of dollars in terms of their technology. I don't think it's ever been more difficult for a IT director, a CTO, or even a CEO to make a decision on technology. I think it's tougher than ever when they're actually placing their bets. So the demands of those customers is to work with them to actually show, prove, and illustrate a true and genuine return on investment, whilst at the same time operating and deploying a very, very comprehensive user adoption program. So as much as the illustrious panel here will talk about technology, we'll talk about where technology is going, I'm seeing it from a slightly different side in an integrator that deploys that technology to prove and illustrate return on investment and work with them in all areas of their business on a comprehensive user adoption program. We did a panel earlier this morning, and one of the key questions and recurring questions is how do I actually get, once I've deployed this technology, how do I get people to use it? More of that, I guess, through this panel session, but that's what I'm seeing as a real key area of technology and investment right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Jed?
So good morning, or I guess it's good afternoon now. So from a Cisco perspective, I don't want to disparage everything you just said, but I couldn't agree more actually. So the adoption piece of the user adoption is the most important piece that any of us on this panel can really focus on at this point, in my opinion. It's no longer about, hey, are you 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 1080p? We kind of all got that at this point. But it is, can you make the technology invisible? Can you make the technology super easy to use so that, if you're a 20-year-old new and career person can come in there, or your 65-year-old, very experienced person can come in that room and know exactly how to use it without picking up a manual? That's the home run. That's what we're all after. So it doesn't matter how great the technology is. If they don't use it, they're not going to get that return on investment that they're looking for. So, we think this is the year of pervasive video. Customers are going to truly start to roll out video and collaboration into every room, but they're only going to do that if they get that return on investment and the technology is invisible and they get the adoption they're looking for.
Good afternoon. So from Intel, we've come at this from a slightly different angle. We've come at it from a PC server experience and bringing a lot of what we're experiencing inside of our company. And what we're really focused on is, in the workspace, there's a tremendous amount of data. And how do we take advantage of that, track it, understand what people are doing in our collaboration spaces and workspaces? And as a company, we have solutions throughout our environment. And so we're taking advantage of the data that we can grab to see what people are using, why they're using it, and make everything better within the environment, and then applying that across the products that we have.
So this is definitely an interesting topic, right? And you can take it in so many different directions, and I feel bad for the guys at the end of the table because this definitely gets more challenging as we go on. But from a Yamaha UC or Revo Labs standpoint, right, we're seeing the continued convergence of what we're calling IT AV. And as we continue to move into these huddle room spaces, these open workspaces, and we need to enable, or you need to enable technology in them. What is the technology that you're choosing, right? And obviously, we don't want to spend $1 bajillion to outfit all of these spaces, but yet we need to make them easy and simple to use and give them video and audio and all of those good things. So figuring that situation out and navigating that is really what we're tackling and what we're going after, and bringing the best in breed technologies into one simple solution that's easy to use is key. So, yep.
So I think what we've seen over the last, honestly, almost even just a year, is some major technology entrants into this space, sort of dabbling, but you're going to see them grow much larger. Facebook introduced their workplace product. Who knew Facebook had a workplace communications video, platform thing that they were launching. It doesn't do a ton yet, but you can better believe with their resources, they're going to make it big. Amazon got into the space with their Chime service. Microsoft launched their Teams collaboration platform. Little companies like Slack are starting to get in there. And so you're starting to see a ton of companies get into this space. And so as confusing as it is today, I think it's going to get even more confusing in terms of technology choices and how do you figure out what you do, especially when you've got to make some decisions that last some time. And that also drives, I think, a lot of people to say, some people will 100% standardize on one thing. I think a lot of organizations understand I have to be able to use a suite of different tools because there is no one tool that will cover everything that I need. Different departments work in different ways. They're going to pick different tools. How do I support all of these different tools that are going to come into these spaces? And then I think someone had mentioned it, but scale becomes increasingly important because even though we thought we were pushing down into these lower cost rooms a couple of years ago, I think customers are really saying, when I was pushing down even to the huddle spaces, maybe the banks and the oil and gas were pushing to 100% of rooms. Most people were pushing maybe 20%. You got to get down to a really low price point to be able to get into 100% of rooms for the majority of companies. And I think that's what everybody's looking at now is how do I get to that 100% coverage level.
So don't disagree with anything that was said here, right? It's about outcomes, it's about adoption, it's about the technology. But when I talk to customers about BlueJeans and started at BlueJeans just under a year ago and went out and visited with a lot of customers, and They didn't talk about that so much. They said, I just want great meetings. I want meetings that start on time. I want meetings where I can see people and hear people and we have great follow-up. So we're talking a lot about meetings. I think meetings are kind of the hot topic. And look at them in a few ways. One, it's got to be simple. Meetings have to be simple to get into. No matter what tool you're in, we're in a heterogeneous environment. People come in from Skype or from Slack or from Outlook or from Office 365 or whatever it might be. They should get to their meetings quickly from whatever tools they're in. Once they're in the meeting, it should be an immersive environment, right? The audio's got to work. The video's got to work. You've got to share whatever's in the room with whatever whiteboard you have, whatever codec you have, whatever device you're on. You've got to be in the meeting. It's got to be immersive. And then after the meeting, actually the meeting's not over, right? People talk a lot about meeting persistence. So all these meetings that our customers are attending in our rooms, they've got audio, they've got video. So we can actually record that. We can listen to it. We can take actions on it. We can take that information and put it to Facebook and take the recording and put it to Workplace or to Slack or to Skype. So for us, really, it's focusing on the meeting, making it simple to get in, immersive once you're in the meeting, and then persistent, so making the meeting last beyond the meeting.
Yeah, so talking about hot topics, I just read yesterday that about 38% of all of the enterprises are running almost 80% or more apps now, just from the cloud. And in the same survey, they predicted that this will double to about 70% in 3 years. And I think that will have a tremendous effect on our industry as well. And we've already seen it with BlueJeans and Videxio, the company I work for, and Siemens, others. So I think the software as a service and UC as a service is a tremendous hot topic, and I think it will change how people actually are going to consume it. And then, of course, it needs to be easy to use and all of these things. But I think that's really an interesting time now for that. Also because you need to do it while protecting your data, protecting your security, make sure that the IT still are in some sort of control. And there's some interesting regulations now coming out in Europe and other places trying to protect the end users from this as well. So I think that is, for me, is a really hot topic, and it's going to be interesting to see what follows.
So what we've seen is the number one topic, and I'm coming back from a week in Europe and probably meeting 20 different customers and a bunch of partners. But everyone, almost to a person, is talking about user experience. So before we talk about price or deployment models or feeds and speeds or capabilities, it's always user experience. And that comes down to adoption, which has been mentioned earlier on the panel. So the ability for people to have a consistent user experience from whether using their laptop or going into a huddle room or going into a regular conferencing room or going into a telepresence kind of environment, having that consistent user experience across those different environments is really important, and having an easy-to-use, simple user experience. So for Polycom, user experience has been our North Star all along. We've always focused on great industrial design, great features, delighters in the products, so that part of our strategy hasn't changed at all. But the piece that has been a bigger and bigger portion of our portfolio in the recent years has been how do you then integrate that great experience at the endpoint with the workflow that our customers are using. And there's not one workflow. There's no one solution. Not everyone's using Microsoft or anything else. I'm sitting between two partners that have workflows that they're selling to customers and getting lots of great use. So our goal is to integrate seamlessly into those workflows, make it the same user experience, make it dead easy with whatever device, whatever environment you're using. And so that's been our focus, and I think we're seeing a lot of success from things like being able to natively register our endpoints into those services without having to go through any translation, as well as providing interoperability services in the cloud, so you can easily connect things that can't natively register, whether it's our products or other products, into these different cloud-based services.
Hi everybody, thanks. Dave from Zoom. I think that the biggest, hottest topic didn't get mentioned. I'm surprised it wasn't on your slide, Ann. And I don't know how many people watch Silicon Valley, but Piper Video Chat was acquired by Hulu, which is big, because they would have made fun of us all year long on HBO about the industry. So it's funny. I was at dinner on Monday night in Atlanta with a table of AV professionals and video professionals and asked them what their hottest topic was. been prepared for the panel, and they pretty much told me it was too many disparate vendors, right? Having 7 to 8 video conferencing, web conferencing vendors in the enterprise is just too many. It was a 2,000-person company. They had WebEx, Cisco, Intercall, Skype for Business, Adobe, Slack, and it just kept going on. And she was telling me, I just can't manage all those vendors. It's super confusing for the users, very hard to provision, and we've got compliance issues. So I think that the hot topic here is, limiting the number of vendors, giving your users the experience that they want, but also being able to manage it in a consistent way. One of our customers is GoDaddy, and they evaluated 42 vendors. So it's a crowded space, but I think as we emerge and get better, it's going to narrow down to 2-3 vendors.
I think this is the year we start to see ubiquity. I think there are a couple of things driving that. One is customers are asking for user experience team up, a common user experience, no matter where they are. Where's my workspace? It's wherever I'm working. It's in an airport departure lounge, it's in my home office, it's at corporate headquarters, it's in front of a customer, it's with my supply chain partners. Sometimes I'm in a dedicated room that's been built for collaboration. Sometimes I'm on this device. Sometimes I'm on my laptop. And customers expect ubiquity. We've come to expect it in our personal lives using devices like this. We can FaceTime anywhere, call anywhere, share documents anywhere. So customers are driving us towards ubiquity. I think the other thing that's driving ubiquity right now is price. Vendors up and down this panel here have gotten the message that we've crossed Jeffrey Moore's chasm. Adoption is becoming mainstream, and that drives us to compete more fiercely, and price is a benefit to the end user of that competition. So I think the trend this year is about ubiquity. I think you'll see prices coming down. I think the good systems focus on a common user experience across all platforms so that adoption goes up, so I can use it no matter where I am.
What was the question again? No. I think the first thing to say is I've been in this industry for 25 years, and if I'd sold wireless routers for 25 years and we had got to 2.5% of meeting rooms had wireless routers in, I would be fired. And I think that we as an industry can congratulate ourselves as that. Isn't it going well? 40 million meeting rooms globally do not have any kind of video communications technology in today. So I think as Zoom has ably demonstrated with their $1 billion valuation recently, there's a lot of opportunity in this space. And I think that the answers that have got us to where we are today, and a whole 2.5% meeting room penetration, are not the answers that are going to get us to the next set of solutions. So whether those are sparkboard type solutions or interactive whiteboard solutions for a range of folks here, or whether they're very small, very low cost, very high quality huddle room solutions from companies like mine, or all of those, I think that the opportunity here to make this industry enormously larger. Let's say we go completely crazy and only get 1 in 4 meeting rooms in the next 5 years. Let's just say 1 in 4. That's 10 times the size of market that we have today. And I think it's very interesting to see when you look at the analysis from the analysts that the traditional meeting rooms, the traditional big high-cost video conferencing systems are actually going down in both revenue terms and in unit terms. And the number of small, low-cost, simple-to-use solutions. And when I say simple to use, I do not mean intuitive. There is no such thing as intuitive that's any use. There is familiar. Users love to use the thing they already use. They don't want to learn something new. So giving them something that's ubiquitous and works with everything is going to be a very powerful part of the story.
Great. Now my next set of questions you do not all have to answer. Pick and choose. You just raise your hand or jump right in, and be careful because Simon will jump into all of them if you're not careful. And he always has good things to say. What recommendations would you make to the end users to get better usage out of what they've already got installed and to migrate to all the new things being installed. I'm sitting out there as an end user with a legacy set of equipment. I have my employees coming to me saying, I want everything at the desktop, I want everything mobile, I want to be able to do this everywhere, I want to equip all of our conference rooms. What advice do you give to those organizations to do it as easily as possible? Yes, Tom.
Here. Buy with Exio? No, to be serious, I think a lot what we see in a lot of customers, the biggest success is if you start small and you try to create some success stories that you can bring internally, and that the users are aligning in why they are implementing this new technology and what you actually are going to use it for. I think in my experience, people, and we demonstrated the complexity here with, you have to evaluate 48 vendors to buy something. You spend a lot of time and effort in evaluating and buying a solution. And a lot of times we see that people don't spend a lot of time in trying to implement and train users and try to create a good way of working. So you kind of create that seamless experience for the users. Not only solution, but it's a new way of working.
Another comment. Greg?
Sure. I guess my recommendation is beware of walled gardens. So if you think about this industry, and I've been doing this even longer than however many years you had said, the history of this industry for 100 years is about standards and interoperability. Because no one can build an entire solution, no one can build a global network. So everyone had to build their pieces, and we had T1 and ISDN and H323 and SIP and all the interoperability, and our customers could buy these different components and stitch them together at a high cost of support and of execution. That's changed because of the cloud. So once you go to the cloud, you don't have any requirement for interoperability. You can deploy a service, it can be splattered across the world instantly, and as long as someone can download an app, they've got access to the service and you're good, right? Except now you're locked in. Now you have no ability. When you start to make large investment decisions, that $5 a month for the service isn't as big a decision as I spend a few $1,000s for something that goes in the room. When I make that investment decision, and that investment is now tied into that walled garden, you're stuck. If you want to change suppliers of the service 2-3 years from now, you may have to rip and replace that entire thing. So I think it's very important when you make capital acquisitions or when you make investment in the infrastructure in your enterprise that you look at the services you're going to procure and make sure that they're not tying you into this walled garden where you can't break up, where you don't have the flexibility. So for us, our strategy is about connecting into lots of ecosystems. So when you buy an asset, that asset can persist as the ecosystems change, as the services change. You've got that flexibility. That's our core vision. I think it's important to consider that because that's the money you spend that you're going to want to keep around for 10 years is the stuff in the room, not the service you're buying today.
Simon?
I think if I was an IT director and I had to look after a lot of end users, look, just shuddering just thinking of it, but having to do that, a thankless task perhaps. It reminds me of Napoleon once said, if you want to lead the English, work out which direction they're marching in and walk in front of them with a flag. And I think for many IT directors there's this issue that you probably don't have as much control over your users as you used to. 20, 30 years ago you could say, here's your IBM PS2, here's WordPerfect, get on with it. And today these users are annoyingly somewhat educated and they'll do whatever they like. And therefore I think if I were an IT director I would say, I'll build the thing that's the most flexible. And when the client walks in and says, well, the marketing department uses Zoom, and the finance department uses BlueJeans, and the next guys use WebEx, then I don't get shouted at by the heads of any of those departments if I put in a technology, a hardware technology at the endpoint that works with everything that the client could turn up with. And I would argue that that is a pretty strong and compelling argument. Because I don't know about you, but in my experience, IT managers go to work to not get fired. And this sounds really cruel, and I don't mean it that way in the sense that it's a bit of a thankless task, right? You go to work and no one rings you at 5 o'clock in the evening and says, thanks, everything worked today. No one ever said that. Even with IT directors, in rooms full of them, they all agree that's not the case. And so what you don't want to do is say, yeah, we bought this hardware platform and it works with one monolithic solution, and then the CEO said, oh, actually, we're having a chat with another company and they're using something else.
make it work. And you go, actually, we can't. And they never say, oh, that's all right then, that seemed like a reasonable decision. Said no one ever. So something to think about. Flexibility, I think, is the real key here.
Dan, you first.
So I think you brought up a very good point about walled gardens, right? Because it's very different from how it was 5 years ago with standard space, right? And it's, in one way, it's not a walled garden, right? Because when you're at your desktop, it's in a browser, right? Everybody's got a browser, so it's not walled. I can run, 20 different services in my browser. But when you go to a room, and I'm going to pick on Google only because they're not here, you put Chromebox for meetings in the meeting room. Guess what? It only works with Google Hangouts, right? And it has a great experience with Google Hangouts. But if you want to use anything else in that room, you have a vendor, a customer, a partner, anybody else book that meeting on anything else, that meeting room is useless. And so it sort of hamstrings you in the current time, right, to be able to do what you want to do. But when you start to think about change management and what do I need to evolve to, it's one thing to change software on the back end. I don't want to minimize the complexity of that because that is very complex, but just the bodies needed to rip and replace, even just 50 meeting rooms over a weekend makes it near impossible, right? So when you're looking at hardware in the rooms, that ability to be agile and be flexible with what you do in the space, I think, becomes even much more important than just, when you're thinking about it, of how do I manage change management on the desktops.
Danny, you had a comment.
Yeah, the comment I have as I listen through this, these are a lot of people here, a lot of industry experience, and I would be very careful not to actually put a nail in the coffin of video meeting rooms just yet. There's a lot of demand still for high quality video rooms. We all know they're expensive, but they are still in demand. In fact, we're actually seeing a slight increase in the demand for those in unison with the VMR platforms that many of the vendors are representing here. So in actual fact, we're actually seeing those coexist. And the real trick, really, from any one of us, whether you're an integrator or supplier, is the ability to make sure they actually do coexist and they work together. And we're actually seeing, as an industry, we're seeing a tremendous increase in the whole managed service proposition, and that is actually bringing all those services together and managing those, whether they're private, public, or in the cloud. So let's not be too hasty in terms of saying video rooms are over, but I do agree with Simon, with between 40 and 50 million huddle rooms potentially available to us, the opportunity there for every manufacturer. I also agree with a comment that was made earlier. There's far too many manufacturers, potentially as an IT director, CEO, trying to make that decision. I think it's almost impossible. How do you make that decision? And many actually don't make that decision. So, I think the as-a-service model is going to be more pervasive going forward.
Mike Fitch first.
Yeah, listen, you have to look at it in two ways, right? You have your end users or your actual employees, right? For them, as discussed, consistency is key. You need to deploy whatever solution you're going to deploy. You can't just be at the headquarters and then have something different over here and something different over here, because that doesn't work. And people aren't going to use it, and there's no ROI on that, right? Because then I don't know what's going on here. I'm not going to use it. You spent $10,000 to outfit this room that nobody's going to use. Consistency, simplicity, right? All of those things. Somebody mentioned solutions that are recognizable, right? Something that somebody walks into a room, I recognize this is a USB port. I know what to do with that. When you walk into a room and there's just a remote or there's something that I don't know what to do, I don't know how to turn this on, that's not good. And then from an actual IT standpoint, right? You folks, and I'm surprised it wasn't mentioned until right now, manageability, right? Remote manageability. If you're going to deploy something that's global, you need to be able to manage that from your desk. Hey, this room isn't working, okay? I can log on to this portal, I can see that actually it is working, you just don't know how to use the tool, right? I think those types of things are key. And then ease of installation, also key. Someone mentioned, I'm going to outfit 5,000 rooms across the globe. Well, that's one hell of an undertaking, right? And if it's a pain in the ass to install, that's not a good thing, right? It needs to be easily installed, ease of use. All those things are key when you're looking at it, but it's two-sided. Though they somewhat, flip back and forth, but it's a two-sided coin.
So Mark, go ahead, comment.
Kind of back to the end users. One thing we've really found is the need to meet users where they are, right? You could rip and replace and put in a whole system and force change management for everyone to meet over video in a certain way and join to a certain tool. And if people aren't comfortable with that, they will shadow IT and get their own thing, right? That's how Slack became so popular. You didn't want to use the system, you buy Slack, you get it in a bunch of different groups, they end up using it. So the recognition that all the end users in the organization are actually very different. There's millennials who are super comfortable with video and mobile and want to join meetings that way. There's folks that, even though they have a headset and they have the ability to join over VoIP, they don't. They're comfortable with the phone. So recognizing that people come from all sorts of different places, heterogeneity is the norm, and that meet all the users where they are. And hopefully you can get to a place where they're all using the most productive medium in the most productive ways, the most productive places. But a lot of users aren't comfortable, doing things differently. So again, recognizing what people are used to and having the systems that meet them where they are in terms of the systems, the practices, the systems that are familiar. So kind of taking a crawl, walk, run approach, recognizing there's different types of personas across an organization.
Dave.
I think integrations are super important for the end user. So obviously you want to get your calendar integration set up. Single sign-on is huge because once it's on a single sign-on, users can get on it and adopt. Integration with Slack is super important, even with Skype for Business. So just making it as easy as possible for them with an app they're in. One of our customers is Uber. They've got about 30,000 users, about 1,200 conference rooms. What they do after every meeting is they have this simple thumbs up, thumbs down. So if it's thumbs up, it's fine. If there's a thumbs down, they'll actually have a drop-down scale and see what was wrong with the meeting. And what they do that's really smart for their end users, if there is a problem, they have that email address of the host of the meeting, and they'll reach out to that person to see if it's a training issue with that individual person, or to see if it's a problem with that particular conference room. But they'll look at it, on a daily basis, and as long as they're hitting their 97% CSAT, they have some really good data. And when an executive has a problem, they come back and say, 97% of the time it's fine. You've had X amount of problems. It's a training issue. So I think those two are important for end users.
Chad, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, we're talking about existing equipment in a conference room, and I think a lot of it is going to be around planning. So, looking ahead, do you need a smart whiteboard and do you need a display? Because displays are getting touched, you can move that right into a smart whiteboard. And you're going to continue to see integration of hardware across every room, which is going to drive down costs as well. And then I think the other thing is, the second you go buy something in a room, now it's part of that room again. So planning ahead on, can you upgrade that in the future, and then where's that path going to lead? So everything you're doing is in one motion, planning for that integration.
Let me move on to a couple more questions. And we ask everybody to do this each year. Are there any unique user applications you've seen this past year that we might not have seen the year before? Do you have any customers doing things differently? Any customers that we could benchmark ourselves against or think of, Dave?
Yeah, we have a virtual background that allows people to put a picture behind them of it wherever they want to be. And an interesting use case on the sales teams is, they'll start out with the beach or a yacht or something like that. But on Fridays, they put a picture of the cube, so it looks like they're working. But we're starting to see it in customer-facing scenarios, which is really cool. Solar City, which is now Tesla Energy, uses us, and they'll actually put a picture. They sell solar panels to houses and commercial businesses. They'll actually put up the house behind them and show them where they're going to put the solar panels and how it's going to look. And I think that's kind of phase one. What I think is coming is going to be more animation in the meetings. I'm really excited about that. So can you imagine having a virtual cane pull Simon off the stage when he's talking to them? And I think it just, virtual birthday cakes, all that stuff is coming. But phase one is just with that virtual background.
Okay, Simon, your chance now.
I prefer the cake. We've got an interesting one. We launched a new webcam called Brio this year, ISE in Amsterdam, and it has the facility to use, or faculty, or whatever the word you people use, the ability to use facial recognition to unlock your computer in Windows 10. It'll do it for other things as well. It's very clever. I frankly never thought about it. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, because I don't use Windows 10. I had customers come to me, big customers come to me and said, yeah, we'll buy about 5,000 of those every year, forever, just so that we don't have to work out how to 100,000 users every 180 days when they all forget their password. And although not directly, it's related to a 4K webcam called Brio that we launched, and it's quite an impressive product, but just that feature alone meant that people are going to use the product in a way I'd never even considered before. Perhaps my sort of naivete, but that was really interesting.
Brady.
I think one of the more interesting applications I've seen in the last year is one embraced by one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Turns out that these production lines that turn out life-saving medications are very, very sensitive to seismic events. Even the kind of thing we sleep through in the Bay Area, if you have one that happens to be underneath a pharmaceutical plant, it throws the whole thing off. And so instead of producing $100,000 worth of life-saving medications an hour, it's producing junk. And so this particular company has put seismic sensors in all of its plants around the world. There are 18 of these plants around the world. And so they're alerted at their headquarters in the United States if there's a trembler in any of those regions. And they immediately get on a call. So they have video meeting rooms, they have mobile devices, they have their laptops, whatever's handy. They get on, talk to the plant manager at the plant in Singapore, for instance, and say, hey, we just detected a 3.8, 26 miles from where you are. How are things going? And oh, by the way, we're looking at telemetry coming from production line B, and it looks off. And so there's a quick discussion about that. The plant manager or somebody he or she assigns goes down to the machine, and now they're using this. And now they can see the person back in Chicago talking. They say, take the phone, I want to see area 32, show me that area. Yeah, that's out of alignment, let's fix that. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, the guy who built the machine is in Germany, let's get him on. He's at home, we wake him up, he's on his laptop. This goes to the point that there are unusual applications and people need to use multiple platforms on a moment's notice. These aren't always scheduled meetings. A lot of times these are ad hoc and people resort to whatever device they have handy in front of them. And it's always two-way. And we have people working now around the world to solve the problem in Singapore with an engineer in Germany, an engineering team and a sales team in Chicago. They're alerting downstream distribution that, hey, we've gone offline for an hour, we've missed the shipment, it's going to go out tomorrow. A complex network, but this instantaneous kind of natural interaction that needs to be as easy as tapping somebody on the shoulder and saying, hey, something's going on here.
Danny.
Yeah, interestingly, I'm not being able to use the word heterogeneity in this summary. I'm still amazed you got that in before for a drink, but there you go. We've all been to all the industry events over the last few years and seen AI and lots of virtual reality. We're delighted to say that for the first time at the back end of the first quarter, we actually sold our first virtual reality teaching hospital solution. So effectively within this region, actually within the Florida region, actually using virtual reality as a teaching aid for medical students. I think it's one of the first in the world, but it's actually going to be so impactful in the way that medical students are actually trained globally. And I think when we look at revolutionary technology, we'll probably look at a milestone of this and actually look back as one of the very few, one of the very first. So we're fiercely proud of that as a development and a deployment.
Greg.
Yes, rather than sort of something that's just emerging right now, I think that the biggest thing I've seen in the last year or so is we've historically in this industry, voice and video have been really important, and content has been kind of the poor stepchild. And we've stared at grainy PowerPoints and haven't been able to see Excel sheets. And in the last year, really, content has become a full-blown partner in collaboration. So we're seeing lots of these wireless content sharing devices now because we've now got fairly inexpensive 4K monitors. We're starting to get touch is available. Our devices have Miracast and AirPlay, and it's getting easier, and users are trained to be able to cast content, at home, and now they can bring that into the enterprise. So we've kind of hit an inflection point where content really is a full-blown component of collaboration and collaboration distance. And I think this is just going to get better and better. There's a bunch of products out in experiments we're seeing, from Google, from Cisco, from Microsoft, all trying to find the right combination to really compel the users to integrate this into their workflows. We've also got a new product, Pano, that was just announced, and you can see in our booth, But what I think what's really interesting is that this has started as I want to share my content and I want to be able to see it, but it's now expanding into, well, I want to be able to see it wherever I am. I want to get to, and I want to integrate it with the rest of my collaboration infrastructure. I want to be able to annotate on, I want to be able to save those annotations. And once I can annotate, well, the problem we've never been able to solve is how do I whiteboard at a distance? How do I actually whiteboard with someone else, or how does someone else see what I write on the whiteboard, rather than try pointing my camera and the pens are too light. So we've now got some really good whiteboarding experiences that can be integrated into collaboration sessions as well. So I think content is going to be the big story of this coming year, and we're going to see that piece of the industry and the sales that part of the industry really grow dramatically.
Mark.
So speaking of casting content and of content in general, well, I think that meetings themselves are becoming content. So you look at all these time you spend in meetings and they're instrumented and people are dialing in and you've got the audio and the video. You have a content stream. We're seeing a lot of companies now. We introduced integration with Facebook Workplace. We also have integration with Slack and Skype. And we're seeing companies now that, as a matter of policy, broadcast their meetings live to Workplace so that that meeting can be followed up on, people can go back to it, they can use that channel. And again, it's a channel. They're seeing these content channels as channels where they can view video from the meetings. So you can not only follow up on the meeting content there and add your meeting artifacts and augment the content, but it's also transparency into what's going on with the company. The people hosting the meetings are actually being accountable for those meetings so that anyone from the company can look in and watch those meetings. We for a while at BlueJeans have broadcast our board meetings throughout the company. There's a couple sections that we go quiet on that we can't share with the whole company, but to provide that transparency. So sort of the confluence of transparency, transparent cultures at companies, social media as sort of the norm, and the meeting itself as the content has created a really different way of how people are looking at meetings, share those meetings, and use these meeting rooms as a place to broadcast those meetings.
Tom Earon.
So that was a good intro actually, because it was very close to what I'm seeing as well. As a big surprise actually, an uptake on combining the traditional video meetings, as you say, with various streaming platforms. And we launched now integration with 7-8 different type of streaming platforms like Facebook Live, etc. And we see so many new ways of actually then using not only video conferencing, but also integrating in with various streaming platforms for various type of applications, which is quite interesting. And I think we're going to see a lot more to this, from having all hands meeting all over the world and using YouTube or Facebook, whatever, to really reach all of the users instantly, which is quite amazing. Where a couple of customers we have, like Brady, we're having all these offices all over the world. And the biggest problem they have is, of course, if you want to do an all hands and you don't have your own streaming platform. There's now starting to be so many good streaming platforms out there which already have a good content distribution network. And for us bringing kind of that dialogue into these meetings are quite cool actually, and surprising.
And it is a dialogue. It's not just streaming out. Now people using these media tools can comment, they can talk, they can have conversations, so you can have a meeting outside the meeting with full transparency. Yeah. It's exciting. Yeah.
So let me ask you, what role do managed services offerings and the cloud play in making these technologies effective and seamless? Because a lot of the end users are looking at those technologies and starting to use them. What's your take on that? Stump them all.
I'm happy to start. So, BlueJeans' roots are in bringing together different technologies and interoperability. And I think that interoperability started with, different media technologies, different codecs. And there's so many different standards out there, and the great things about standards is you have so many to choose from. But again, back to heterogeneous environments, is people are using so many different tools, and the cloud is such a great place to bring those together. Whether it's transcoding media, whether it's using SSO tools to bring it together, whether it's different ways of sharing it. I think it is really kind of the great way of flattening all these different technologies. So you don't have to in-house have 30 different technologies and manage them all. If you've got 30 different technologies coming from the cloud and they all integrate with the same identity, with the same tools for interactivity, when they all come into your room together, the cloud and managed services is a great way to do that.
I agree. I agree. And you know what? We've been having this conversation for some time now, and I come from a world of hosted voice and collaboration services, network services, etc. And now more so on the manufacturing side, obviously. But from an IT standpoint, right, it's all about being able to spend your time on business-driven activities, things that are going to drive the actual business forward, right? And not spending time running around in troubleshooting rooms and following up on 10 or 20 different platforms and managing a phone system that sits in the closet in the back of, whatever. Everything is moving to hosted solutions, right? And most companies are there. And if you're not, you're going to be there. And ultimately, being comfortable with having somebody else to manage those solutions for you is key. Because if you're not, you're going to miss the boat on not only making your life a million times better, right, and making your company function better and make more money, but you're missing the boat on the best of breed technology that exists now, that exists in the cloud. Right, and I think the argument is now we're way past the time of what about security and all that stuff. I mean, everything, your bank is in the cloud, everything's in the cloud. So if you put all your money in the cloud, I think you can put some information that your company has in the cloud. So
Tom, Eric.
Yeah, and then I think I'm a little bit embarrassed as well about the industry, because I think we can all agree that Microsoft and Cisco and Google will never agree. So we're always going to have these different technologies, and I think it's actually to the service provider like BlueJeans and Rex and Zoom and others that will have to bring this together. But it's no different from what the auto industry is doing today. If I'm making a phone call from the US back to Norway, that call is actually transcoded a couple of times, or 2 or 3 times before, because it's passing through different proprietary technologies. But it's seamless. I don't care. I just want it to work, and I can use any phone calling anybody. But it's up to the service provider in the background, in the cloud, to actually make that happen. And I think based on the manufacturers and some of the vendors out there, I just don't think they will ever agree. So I think there's always going to be the need of service provider taking that responsibility.
So before I go to Dan, then Danny, I need to go to Jed. And Jed, we have to have you stand up to that question that he just made about you, Google, and Microsoft ever working together.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So let me move the mic a little closer to me on that remark. So I don't think that Microsoft, Cisco, Google, and the rest of us up here will never work together. In fact, I think a lot of us are working pretty closely together right now to take, one of the gentlemen at the end of the table said at the beginning is that we're in 2 to 4 to 5% of the conference rooms across the world, depending on whose math you believe. We're never going to get to that 25, 30, 40, 50% that we're all looking for if we don't interop together. And I think the cloud absolutely helps hide a lot of those interoperability issues and the complexity issues. There is no doubt. And so, Cisco's embracing the cloud, obviously, as we all are. But we all have to work closer together, and we continue to do that. I mean, Cisco's acquisition last year of Econo was exactly for that reason, was to work closer with Microsoft to be able to bridge those worlds together. But back to your initial question at hand, though, around cloud, I'll say this, right? What got us here, right, to video finally being to a point where it can be immersive, is because it was immersive, right? We have high quality video experiences, high quality user experiences. People expect that type of quality in the office, and so what we can't allow happen with the cloud is have the cloud take that experience and reduce it, right? So we've got to figure out a way to get QoS and all those things that give you that amazing experience for collaboration from the cloud as well. So that's a challenge that we all have as vendors here. But that's what's cloud's going to make it very simplified and all the things that we just talked about. But if that experience starts to degrade because it's all over the top, that's not going to help us get to that 25, 30, 40, 50% of rooms either. So just when you're making your cloud decisions, you got to look at it from an experience perspective as well, not just a pure interop perspective.
Dan, you're next.
So I want to talk about the managed services side for a second, because I look at the fact, how did integrations get done 10 years ago, right? 100% capital expenditure, and basically that was just because it was a construction project. We were building a room, which was a serious amount of construction. There was no just like, hey, I'm going to drop this in place and it's going to work, so I had to buy it like I bought construction. What we're moving to is a bunch of products and services that aren't bought like a construction product. They're bought more like software services, which means we're moving from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. And The integrators are selling things like an OpEx model along with the services on top of it. Why would anybody selling anything want to have a transaction that I sell you something and then we walk away forever, right? That doesn't build a business. People want to go to a model where I'm selling you something, we're continuously embedded with you, we're helping you improve it time over time. As you start to be able to gather more information from these devices, as I can use these devices to track my utilization of the rooms, occupancy of the rooms, right? I don't want a partner that's going to sell me something and walk away. I want a partner that's going to work with me to optimize these spaces, help me understand what I need to do, because even at the largest companies, they don't have the experts in this space, and even if they were, they got a million other jobs. They want to hire somebody that's going to be invested in their company's success, and honestly, the best way to do that is by buying things like OpEx with managed services. So I would say 5 years from now, that will be the vast majority of what we're doing.
Danny.
Yeah, I'll make this relatively quick. I think that being at the end of this question, I think most of it has been said, but certainly that proliferation and demand for a CapEx into an OpEx model is absolutely high priority for a number of people. But back to the original question in terms of really where managed services now come into play. And again, from my and our company's global experience, actually looking where managed services has a play in this, it's not just about one section, e.g. the cloud. It's about providing holistic managed services right across the piece. So that's managing your room systems, it's managing your cloud, it's managing your customer care, it's taking trouble ticketing, it's taking the whole piece from start to finish and providing a complete global service. And alongside of that, really, which hasn't really been mentioned a great deal yet, is the assessment of the data that is collected, e.g. in terms of analytics. We're actually going to see, whether it's particularly from manufacturers such as Cisco, real-time analytics critical to the way that people actually make business decisions, the way they actually deploy technology, and more importantly, how they actually use technology as well. So managed services is when we talk about pressing requirements, vocabulary, and changing conversation, CapEx into OpEx and managed services is very much at the core of what we're seeing globally and the demands of businesses, whether they're in the enterprise or even in the next tier down. We've got manufacturers here that operate within the commercial space, pushing up into enterprise, as opposed to the likes of Cisco that very much operate in the enterprise space, potentially pushing down into the commercial space. So we're seeing a very, very big move in terms of the managed services piece, and I think we're all conscious of what that actually offers the end user community.
Simon.
I think as someone who doesn't directly have a dog in this fight, right? Logitech works with everybody, I think, on this panel at some level. I think that there's a couple of things for end users to consider here. The first one is, it isn't going to get any easier. Sorry. Right? Someone talked here about evaluating 42 different vendors. We're probably close to, and I don't know if we truly are, but I suspect we're quite close to peak cloud in the number of different vendors within it. Right? So if anyone knows anything about paleontology, about 600 million years ago, there was a thing called the Cambrian explosion, and it's when multicellular life took off on planet Earth. See, you didn't know you get this in this presentation, did you? And what happened was all these different life forms started off, and there was all these different answers to the way of building life forms. Almost all of them died out, right? About the only ones that survived were the ones that you see on the Earth today. And I suspect this is the same is true in the cloud space. There are an enormous number of vendors, many of whom will go bust, some of whom will concatenate, others will get bought out, and we're probably, possibly, who can tell yet, no tell in hindsight, at a level where so many different options are available that a few of them, less than 42 I suspect, will become the right answer. Right until the point where they're not the right answer anymore. So when I first started in business back in the 80s, and I was 7 when I first went to work, the answer was WordPerfect on a compact PC running running Microsoft DOS, and your network was Novell NetWare 2.08a. And it would always be that, and it was, right until the point where it wasn't anymore. And the success criteria in the market changed. And that will be the same in this market as it has in every market ever.
Brady.
I love the Cambrian explosion example, Professor. I think that there certainly is an explosion of services. I don't think there's doubt among any of us in this room that the cloud is the thing. In this explosion of possibilities, it's your choices. You guys get to make these choices. And I think it's going to be driven around two things. I mentioned one of them before, price, which I think is really essential here. A lot of the pricing being offered in the market today is far too complex. There are too many gotchas. I get the basic service, but if I want standards, I have to pay more for that. If I want to use it in a certain way, I have to pay more for that. I think simplicity will be driven into this marketplace by this competition. And I think the other thing always, of course, is reliability, right? Who's doing it, who's doing it well. That's a secret that cannot be kept. If a service is not providing reliability, the word gets around pretty quickly.
Great, let's wrap this one up for us, and I'll go on to the next one.
Sure, thanks. I'm an engineer, so I've been listening to all this, customer value and sales stuff, and I have to talk about engineering a little bit. The cloud has had a tremendous impact on vendors as well. So as I've found, as we've started to build cloud services and construct stuff in the cloud, it's fundamentally changed the way we do development. So historically, you plan out these year to 18-month programs, you build some hardware, you build all the embedded software, you build the apps, you test. Now with our cloud services, we're making changes almost every day. If we want to add a new service, add a new capability, change something, we just load up one VM somewhere in the big Azure cloud, we flip over a DNS entry, and we point a few customers at it and see what happens. And so we got this tremendous velocity in adding capabilities and tremendous variety of services we can provide, and that's benefiting all of our customers. So as we all move as vendors to the cloud and provide more of these cloud services, our customers get more value. We want new capability. You don't have to update 1,000 or 10,000 devices that are sitting in your enterprise. You just get a new service in the cloud, and it connects to all those endpoints and becomes available for you. So I think this is changing the model of how we consume service and how we get access to it. And for us, it's trying to think the right way to say this. It's allowed us to create a brand new model for how we build these capabilities. So it's good for all. Good from an operating perspective, good from a balance sheet perspective, and good from a customer satisfaction perspective.
So my last question to the panel before I open it up to the audience is, what disruptions are on the horizon? Put your crystal ball on and tell me what you think's happening soon. Simon?
In a phrase, mass deploy, right? The problem with video conferencing has always been that because no one else has got it, no one wants to buy it. Whoever bought it first spent the most and had the worst product. And then the second person would buy it, and they would buy it, and it would be later, and they'd immediately have someone to ring because there was that first guy who spent all that money on it. And I think as the market, every single unit that everyone on this panel sells helps everybody. So I think that we're hopefully going to start seeing the whirlwind effect. That more people buy it, and therefore more people buy it because more people bought it. And that's never been the case in this market previously. So for me, that's the great hope.
Dave?
So this isn't rocket science or shocking to you guys, but really the death of audio conference bridges, right? We've trained people to dial into the audio before they join into the meeting. And now that the VoIP quality has gotten so good, we've got to untrain all these users. And we do an ROI study with our customers on this. We've got to wean them off the dial-in, and we're saving them hundreds and thousands of dollars every month by doing that. And it's happening a lot faster than I would have thought a couple of years ago. So I say 2 to 3 years, those dinosaurs that are dialing in, they're going to be out of the workforce because the millennials want their video on, otherwise they know you're multitasking and not paying attention.
Brady?
Well, I think the great disruption is sort of a combination of these things we just heard. It's ubiquity, and it is the change of market from being a seller's market to a buyer's market. The explosion of technology we've talked about, the number of vendors, the number of options, the ubiquity of the platforms that people use is good for end users. And I think this competition leads to price, and I think the great disruptive event that will happen over the next 12 to 18 months is fierce price competition.
Mark?
So we're already seeing it, but it's really consumer expectations, right? Video conferencing, 10 years ago was the sole purview of expensive video systems. Now, my 87-year-old dad, who is a complete Luddite, calls me on FaceTime, right? And that's how we talk. So I think everyone in the workplace today just expects video to work, like FaceTime. Calls should just work without realizing the complexities and security and things in the workplace. And it's not just for a simple video call, right? Plugging in a device. We hear, I can plug in an Apple TV at home or a Roku at home. I plug in the HDMI. It should just work. So I think the expectations are being set at a consumer level. AV and AV communications has sort of crossed the chasm in the consumer level, and I think those expectations will continue to make it cross the chasm in the business.
Mike.
So everybody's chosen, something within the relatively close near future here, and I'm going to take a stab at something a little farther away, right? So artificial intelligence, AI, right? I think, and I really believe that is going to be the next big thing in enterprise, right? Enterprise technology. It's very much so still in its infancy as a whole, and I think, if you want to relate it to something, remember when the iPhones first came out and we were still all using BlackBerries for business, and iPhone was never going to be business grade because security, and they weren't marketing it that way and whatever, and now everybody has an iPhone, right? And it kind of went through the consumer channel first, and then everybody realized how awesome it was and demanded it in the workplace. And I believe that's a similar track that AI will take. How great would it be to walk into your meeting room and have Zoom or BlueJeans or WebEx and say, hey, call Dave. And that's what happens. And I really believe we may not be seeing it for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 or 5, but it's going to be there. And the end users, especially the younger generations, are going to demand it. So.
All right, let me open this up to the audience. If you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come over to you with the mic. Please introduce who you are and who you're with.
Thank you, Ann. We have sound? I'm Joel Silver with the Imaging Science Foundation, and we're video geeks. We live in a world of post-production, production, consumer electronics, and large screen display. I'd like to ask you to take a little exercise and assume that as an emerging technology, this will emerge. Video conferences, you're talking about huddle rooms, you're talking 50,000, 75,000 rooms. I don't see them as huddle rooms. These are video production facilities. So I'd like you to stretch beyond the emerging stage where you become functional and we actually can deliver the picture and get to the stage where you're competing on image quality. And at the emerging stage, it's a wonderful time to come up with recommended practices for basic things. Camera calibration, monitor calibration, recommended lighting, where to have someone sit in the airport. I don't see any motion towards quality of services because you're still struggling like we were in TV in 1939 just to get the picture into someone's home. You're going to be in all these places. You're going to be in everyone's home where they're working at everyone's office. How do we make the pictures look good? And what can we as an emerging industry association do in recommended practices to set a stage where we don't have to deal with what television dealt with, which was 35, 40 years of chaos before we had the ITU, the International Telecommunications Unit, the United Nations, finally take the bull by the horns and say, here's a standard for production. You've got the standards. What can we do as an organization to try and look past the implementation stage and think about quality now?
So can I answer that from a camera's perspective? I guess that's Logitech.
Here's the easiest part. Just right balance your camera with something in the room. You're dealing with every lighting in the world.
Yes, you're balancing camera. So let me answer this question in 2 stages. The first one is, and I was involved in the world's first high-definition video conferencing system. We launched it in 2005, and it did okay. It didn't do great, and the market took a long time to catch up. And in fact, I would argue in many senses what we were doing in 2005 from a quality perspective in a meeting room is probably better than most cloud solutions, some cloud solutions that are available today. So there is an argument that says actually ubiquity, ease of use, everyone's able to speak to everyone else, for most users truly trumps the quality of the call. So that's a sort of a downside, one could argue, to your point. As a positive, things like, we talked about AI earlier, and we're going to talk about machine vision. Once cameras can start understanding what they're actually looking at, then you can get an enormous amount more use out of it. So, for example, HDR, high dynamic range, thank you very much, means in the latest cameras that if you're very backlit, which you often are, for example, with a webcam where you can't control the environment, it can make some reasonably intelligent guesses. If it starts seeing faces, if cameras can see faces in rooms, then it can go, I think I probably want to look at the faces rather than the background or the foreground. So as you know more about the experience or more about the picture, then you'll get a lot better video quality. But it is interesting to note that for most users, ubiquity is more important than quality, which is kind of saddening because I helped build that original high def system, and we realised actually the market didn't necessarily want that. They wanted something else.
Expectations are low. That will change.
Yeah, I accept that.
Greg.
Yes, I can argue this from both sides. I agree to a large extent with what Simon said. Because if you think about voice, and the industry spent years and decades trying to make voice quality better, and you can hear the pin drop, and most of the calls we take are on these things, and it's absolute crap. Right? But the utility of this is so high we don't care. We keep doing it. Even we're sitting next to a great phone in our desk, we pick up this and use it to make calls because it's here. The speed dial's here, it's all ready to go. So I could argue that there's a lot more calls being made on FaceTime than there is on telepresence systems because of the utility of it. But the quality's not as good. So I think there's always this balance between quality of experience and utility and availability and ease of use. What we have been doing, at least in Polycom, is where you can't control the entire environment, you can do things like what Simon was talking about. So if you look at our Centro product, which is a video collaboration unit system in the middle of the room and people sit around it, it knows who people are. It knows where faces are. It follows people, it tracks them around the room, it reformats like a TV production crew what the far end is seeing based on who's in the room, where they are, and who's talking. So we have these things that improve the user experience, even if the white balance isn't perfect, even if the bandwidth is insufficient to get a perfect video stream across. There's a bunch of user experience things we can do to make it a better experience and to increase the utility of the experience.
Yeah.
It's just to preempt your question. We've just recently, actually, as a integrator, we just recently bought a video production company, a company called Video Link. So having bought a company like that, it's really to take the production quality or TV production quality of video and then be able to stand up video quality and be broadcasting live within a very short period of time and bring that to particularly the enterprise and the financial arena. So we've preempted that by actually buying that organisation.
Another question. Over here. Please identify who you are and who you're with.
Hi, my name is Christian Sanchez. I'm a little bit of an outsider because I'm actually in the IT business. I work for a company called Thrive. We're a managed services provider of IT services. I'm with Roku, who is actually in this industry. So you guys are talking a lot about the usability of your services. My concern is on the security side. What are you guys doing to kind of secure things? Because who cares about the usability of the services if things aren't working because you're not protecting these devices, IoT and all that good stuff. You have all these devices out there. Even though you're leveraging a lot of cloud services, you still have to think about everything that's on premise. So what are you guys concerned about, and how do you plan on mitigating that?
Okay, Greg. Since you're the only one that's jumped on it.
Yeah, sorry, this is my favorite topic, so I had to get on it, but I'm sure there'll be other opinions. So security has to be addressed in every sort of layer of how you build and construct these products and services. And so you have to look down to what's the core software you're running on? Is it Linux or Android or Windows? Do you have the right profile in there? Do you have the right encryption technologies? Are they FIPS compliant, for instance? Do you have the right authentication and security to connect into the network? Can you make the transport secure end to end? And from there on, how do you authenticate users? What are your admission policies? How do you integrate into the enterprise Active Directory and the policies there? So I think most of the vendors who create solution level offerings are dealing with security at that level. We go beyond that, I think, and other major vendors do too, in that we sell our products to a lot of customers that care very, very deeply about security. Banks, for instance, or the Department of Defense, or the three-letter agencies. And those guys put you through a lot of hoops in order to certify the products to be deployed in the network. So we go through these certifications. We have ongoing penetration tests within our captive networks to make sure that there's no, when a new version of some module comes out, that it doesn't create a new exposure. We monitor what's spitting out of the ports, and is anyone anything trying to call China. So we've got we've got those kind of layers of operational excellence within the companies, and then we certify with the people that know this. And if we don't get through that, then we can't sell. So that's kind of a good litmus test. Are the products sitting on the approved products list in the Department of Defense? That's a good test case.
So let me tell you my one story about security that rings true, unfortunately. I worked with a major pharmaceutical company who decided they were going to do video conferencing globally, and DES encryption was a mandatory requirement globally for these devices. So it took us a long time, because it was many years ago that we're doing this, and we got everything deployed, and we thought we were all ready to go until the video conferencing coordinator in the room picked up the phone and dialed the key codes, called the other sites, and gave them the key codes over the phone. Nothing secure about it whatsoever. So you've got to be careful when you do this that not only is the technology piece handled, but the people piece is handled as well. Anybody else care to comment on this?
Just briefly, I would also say the trouble with the word security is it depends on what you mean by the word security. Right? Do you mean security of the calls? Do you mean security of the traffic? Do you mean security of the endpoint devices? And fundamentally, there's been a shift in the last probably 10 years in IT organizations that previously they loved products that were, or devices that were discrete and unknown, and you couldn't run a virus on them. And today people prefer open systems which they can then lock down and control in a manner that the IT department actually understands. So I think it's an excellent question, and I particularly liked your response. If the three-letter acronyms can get past it, then everyone can, I guess. But it's a very complicated question. So the answer, therefore, is very complicated as well.
Anybody else? Mark?
So, all of the, having all the compliances, SOC 2 and Privacy Shield, and supporting all the right encryptions and transport and all that important. But we also find in different regions we have a lot of different requirements, right? We got some customers who do not want the data to leave certain regions or certain countries. So while a lot of our services are in AWS, we also offer in data centers within certain regions, and that's important to some customers. Some customers don't want to go over the public internet. They want private MPLS connections directly from our cloud to their cloud and so forth. So again, back to kind of meeting users where they are, from a security perspective, one size doesn't fit all. And making sure we have those different requirements from different regions, different customers is also something we spend a lot of time thinking about.
Let me take one more question here from the audience, and then I'm going to ask each of the panelists to wrap up.
Hi, Tim Banton from Global Data. We provide analysis into the UC and collaboration market, and vendors like you guys. I've been here for a couple of days now. I've missed about 4 conference calls, and when I go back, I'll have an inbox full of people saying, click on this link and sit through 3 hours of video conferences so you can catch up. How far are we in terms of transcription, closed captioning, keyword tagging? What are we doing in that space? Because I haven't got the time to sit through 3 hours of, unless I'm on the aircraft, I haven't got enough time to sit through 3 hours when I get back.
So we're really close. Certainly transcription is something we have APIs in our recordings we offer today, and Panopto and other partners do a full transcription. But if you don't have time to listen to a 2-hour meeting, you probably don't have time to read a 2-hour meeting. I think there's other things that can help there. AI is going to be certainly helpful, right? What are the active times in meetings? When are people talking? When do voices get heated, and actually recognizing that? We've been talking about ideas that you can mark highlights in a meeting, right? Because everyone's got a device in the meeting, whether it's a screen in front of you or this. So, capture the last 15 seconds, the next 15 seconds, and put together a highlight package of a meeting. Where are people actually commenting on a meeting? So I think between transcription, which is there today, between AI and various bots that can do various things in meetings and make them accessible in different ways, and putting together different sort of highlights packages. This is something we'll be seeing across the board soon.
Chad.
Yeah, I just want to comment. So our solution, we work with a bunch of partners and vendors, and we jumped all over transcription right away as hey, this makes a lot of sense. And I think it does in a public setting or an education setting, but the second you get into a business, there's all these lawyers that say, that's not going to happen. We don't want everything written down, because everything from a sarcastic comment that is misrepresented as it's getting transcribed to just people making off-the-cuff comments that aren't even relative to what you're discussing in the meeting.
So I think as we go in and have the business intelligence where, when you kind of get into the AI that was brought up, that can have that ability to dissect what the real key things are, and make a summary that we don't have to have approval every single meeting to go through, then I think you'll get there. But I think that's the biggest gate we've seen.
Good point. All right, we only have a few minutes left. I'd like to give each of the panelists a chance to make some closing remarks. Simon, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to end with Danny, because both of you are board members of IMCCA. So Simon.
I think we're at an interesting inflection point in the industry. I think that what was successful in the past, the WordPerfects, the Compacts, the Novell NetWare, is not necessarily going to be what the future looks like. I think it's an exciting space. I think it's interesting to note that we just happen, by the way, to have become the world's largest provider of room-based video conferencing systems in unit terms, and we didn't tell anyone, which was kind of interesting. And I think that the market is probably in the most exciting place it's been. I have sat here for over 20 years expecting that next year would be the year of video conferencing. And I actually left the industry for about 2 years because I was so brokenhearted over the fact that it never actually happened. And actually I think it's going to happen. And it's one of the reasons I joined Logitech, because we're in such a great position to be a major part of that. I can't tell you how excited I am, because it's a secret.
Brady.
I think we're in the midst of the third great disruption in UC. I think, I started in 1990, was my first video conferencing startup. Back in those days, that was about moving from room-sized video conferencing systems with codecs that were the size of refrigerators that sold for $250,000 to the PC platform. My friends here at Polycom were part of that back in the day. The second great disruption, I think, has been more recent, and it was the advent of cloud-based systems and managed services, making services more affordable than they had been in the past. I think the third disruption we're entering now, as I said earlier, I keep harping on this, but I think it's true, is that we have crossed that chasm. We are on our way. We're not there. The numbers Simon has pointed out are startling. We haven't outfitted nearly enough rooms, but we're on our way to ubiquity. It's really happening. The fact that the services which have emerged over the last several years now support all the devices we have in our pockets and our briefcases in addition to the room systems is important. I think the Cambrian explosion of options is critical here, and we are at a point where we can expect to see these things become much more affordable, much more ubiquitous, and I think innovation driving even faster than it has been because the competition is that much more earnest and fierce.
Dave.
So over the last 18 months, I've been hearing a lot about this 10-minute tax in the meetings, the first 10 minutes of a meeting, right? People trying to get in the conference room. There's that one person who just can't get in. It's a pain. We all know who it is. Get a poor IT person sitting outside in the hot seat, hoping the CEO doesn't flip out and pull them in. And I'm seeing a pretty big convergence. And we just had some announcements with Polycom. We had one today with Crestron, even Cisco, that we're now doing one click to connect on all these different platforms. And I think by us working together and getting a better user experience, making it so simple that people can get in, it's really going to change how people view video going forward. So we're excited for it.
Great.
So I have to echo a lot of what's already been said. It does feel like we're kind of at an inflection point, and we need to stop thinking about this as video conferencing and think about it as video collaboration, because that brings in the different modalities, that brings in the interactivity of it's not just about seeing people, although we want to see people. And the opportunity for all of us is that adoption. How do we get from the 4% or whatever it is up to 50, 60, 70? How do we become as ubiquitous as what's on phones today, where most people have 2 or 3 different video apps? So that's the challenge for all of us. The things that stand in the way, user experience. Like we just mentioned, having that great user experience, that bug's impeding my user experience. Having a great user experience, being able to easily get into sessions, be easily collaborate, be able to access what happened afterwards, be able to participate if you weren't in the meeting. Those are all key things that we have to solve. Being able to deploy wherever people are and make that very simple. Being able to participate in any workflow that customers want or users want. Those are all the challenges for us, and if we do that well, video collaboration should be a side effect of our jobs, not the task we go to do. It should be something that's just part of the rest of what we're doing. So I think that we're seeing good signs in the industry. We're investing a lot in Polycom to build the technologies, both in our products and our services, to enable that and remove those elements of friction from collaboration. And so I think that as long as we avoid the walled gardens and we don't end up siloed as an industry, the future looks very bright, and I'm pretty excited.
Tom Eric.
Excited as well, and I think what I think will happen as well is we see all this manufacturing doing physical products moving into services, and we see all these kind of services companies moving into more or less physical products, creating new type of business model, a new way of providing user what they expect. I mean, Rolls-Royce are no longer selling jet engines; they are selling hours of operations. I remember 2-3 years ago, what we were selling is MCU ports. We don't talk about that anymore. It's all about users and how do you enable users, etc. So I don't believe there will be fewer companies out there. I think this new behavior, how we're going to consume and buy services, is going to create a lot more new businesses actually. So I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to see what's going on, going to happen the next year.
Mark.
So I think while traditionally this discussion about users and using video and collaboration has been sort of a tops-down discussion where how do we implement the right things that we can get people to use. We're at a time, crossing the chasm, tables have turned, whatever it might be, where we're in a market that's really truly being democratized, where instead of going from a tops-down sale and a tops-down implementation, users are demanding video. If IT IT and AV don't provide it, then people choose their own. So I think we're at a time where people serving enterprises have to provide democratized solutions. The cloud has given us the reach, the scale, the interoperability. The prices have come down to a place where it's actually affordable to put it on everyone's desktop, put it in every room. And user experience is dominating everything, from having one click anywhere, from a room system to an existing application. Users are saying, hey, I don't want to download anything. Give me WebRTC is finally at a place where we can provide video on any browser without a download. So you can go to your customers and your customers' customers, and they don't have to deploy an application. Desktop, mobile, anywhere people are, you can provide a great experience. So focusing on a democratized environment where the user experience rules.
Dan.
So yeah, I think someone mentioned sort of the third wave of video conferencing. It's not about video anymore, it's about the workflow. And what you're going to see is as video's gotten easier, right, people will just embed it in sort of all of the tools that they have. Google and Microsoft are elevating their video offerings to be just sort of the core part of the package you get when you buy Google, Google's Workplace or Workforce, Microsoft Office 365. And it's just integrated into the tools. It's not, I'm going to have a video meeting. It's, I'm working on my presentation, and if the person's next to me, we sit next to her and work on the presentation. If the person's in Atlanta and I'm in California, we work on the presentation, and the video tools are just built right into this, right? So you're gonna, I think, move away from a specific, I'm going to have a video meeting, to I'm just using some tools that happen to have video. And I think you're starting to see that with a number of all the various integrations that you've heard these guys talk about, right? It's not about video, it's about all of the ecosystem that goes around that video communication. Because really video is just about the fact that the person isn't sitting next to me, we still need to do the same things we're doing as if they were.
Mike.
So something we didn't really talk about much today, because I think it's an evil word to some people, is price, right? And what is intriguing to me, and I think will be very fascinating to see, is the demand from the end customer, the actual employees, right? And what they demand from a quality standpoint from IT, and what their expectations are and what their appetite is, and where IT is willing to meet them based on quality and price, right? So somebody up here has talked about the quality of video and how good the quality of video will be and meeting certain quality expectations. Sure, but what will that cost be to the enterprise and IT, right? And I'm fascinated to see how that plays out in the coming 12, 18, 24 months, right? As everybody, all these companies are doing video and the quality is getting better and obviously price is going down, but can price continue to drop as these premium solutions come up? And will IT be willing to pay for a premium solution that's really amazing 4K quality, or would they pay for something that does the same thing for a little less quality, right? And that's interesting to me, and it should be fascinating to see how that plays out in this space.
Chad.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is going to be, I don't necessarily think we'll see less companies, but I do think we'll see a lot more companies working closely together, because there are going to be different solutions in different places with different environments, and yet the user is going to expect, one way to interact with all of them. So it's going to take a bunch of us working together. So I actually do think we'll see that.
Chad and Jed beside each other confuses me. Artificial intelligence, we've talked about that. We've talked about facial recognition. We've talked about things come together, like web conferences come together with video conferencing and audio conferencing all come together. It's turning out to be it's just a meeting. We've talked a little bit about interop between vendors, right? How we need to focus on that and get that to a quality where you guys deem that as acceptable. So, from what we see coming in the industry is like this stuff of AI, facial recognition, everything that may be viewed as a future, it's not. That stuff's here today. That's how we're going to get your camera quality and your room quality where it needs to be, is leveraging the technology so that it truly becomes transparent to the end user. So people just walk in the room and know that it will work. How to make that solution. I would almost say where anybody can use it. I'll reframe my thought there, but moving forward, we got to focus on it's just a meeting. At the end of the day, if the end users know how to join a meeting and they don't have to think about, do I have to join this from my video conferencing unit? Do I have to join this from my web conferencing or from my desktop or my cell phone? They shouldn't have to think about that. They just say, I'm gonna be on the golf course. I'm gonna be at my home office. I'm gonna be wherever. At the airport. I shouldn't have to worry about the modality and how to join that meeting. It's just a meeting, and that's how we're going to get you guys to the deployment methodology of the density that you need to have that adoption of your users. And don't confuse my comments on quality with price, right? We'll get the price right, but we got to make sure that the quality is still there too.
As Simon and I from IMCCA bookend this last comment, I think interesting listening to the Compact story from all those years ago. I actually worked for US Robotics, and I used to sell 996 modems at $1,000 a time, so that proves I've been around a little while. I have to say, I think everyone's summary is accurate and reflective. There is a saying that says all boats rise or sail in a rising tide. I've been waiting for more years than I care to remember about this wonderful video and inflection point. I just hope I'm still around when it does actually happen, but I feel it is now. And ready to go, and I think that everybody should be optimistic about the opportunity. All I would say is, as any end user, whether they're in this room or the customers we speak to actually go into those set of halls here and actually make a decision is remarkably difficult. I wouldn't want that challenge. So therefore, we have an individual and collective responsibility to actually help them through that and make sure that the technology they're deploying is right for them, their business, and to coin a Cisco phrase, to make sure that we're affecting their business outcomes, because that is really, really important to make sure that they have longevity in that technology. I actually do think, and I personally believe this, that managed services will be the ultimate in terms of being able to drive, support, and support those business decisions longer term. So I think, as I said, the summing up was I'm the last person. I think from today you've heard really good summings up, really good industry analysts and opinion, and I actually do think we should all be optimistic about what we're selling, what we're promoting, because it's actually a now technology, and I think we all should be encouraged by that.
Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate our fellows again, and then I would like to thank our panelists.